is the co-founder of WIE. So will you please welcome back June Sarpong.
Hello, hello, hello. It's so funny how this room is so full. Now all the men are going to be here. And what delicious, smart, fabulous men we have for you. Okay, so can we first welcome to the stage the voice... Are we ready? We're good, fabulous. Can we first welcome to the stage the voice of London. 1 in 6 Londoners listens to this man every morning. Will you put your hands together for Dave Berry? Followed. Hi, Dave.
Hey, June.
Nice to see you.
Hello, women. Well done on your day.
Okay, our next panelist is a man, and I'm sure you all know. Some love him, some hate him, but you all definitely want to hear what he has to say. Will you please put your hands together for journalist, broadcaster, and political expert, Alistair Campbell.
Yes.
Hi, Alistair. Okay, next up, what can I say?
The good-looking one.
What can I say? Will you please put your hands together for David Gandy? And then our next man. Hi, David.
Hi, Mum.
Hey.
Can you pass a message on?
Yes, exactly. Please stop.
Our next man is unbelievably smart. This man is prolific when it comes to business. He's had 2 phenomenally successful companies. Will you please put your hands together for the founder of First Direct and Egg,
David
Mike
Ward.
Harris.
Thank you. Cheers, guys.
Hi, Mike. And then we have another man who is, what do I say? Very good with his hands. Will you please put your hands together for classical violinist Charlie CM? Okay. No, actually, we squeeze up and we can put Peter here. If you move a little bit.
Yeah, it's to the left.
Yeah,
That's
we
it.
can fit Peter.
That's it.
Then we'll have all on.
We're going to tip Peter over the
We're
edge.
squeezing all up.
We'll squeeze Peter in.
Yeah, a bit more.
Lads, I think we're going this way.
That way.
Sorry about this, ladies.
Yeah.
Okay, come on, chaps.
Come on,
Here we
chaps,
go.
move on.
There you go.
And then our final panelist has flown in all the way from America to be with us. He is a phenomenal social entrepreneur, a very big name in the States, and we're thrilled to have him here, Peter Thun. All I can say is, gentlemen, you are all very brave indeed. To be in a room full of smart, ambitious, fabulous women, I think it says great things about you all. So you should be very proud of yourselves that you said yes, I think. I think the first question I have to ask, which goes to all of you, is what is it that you most admire about women in the workplace, that is? So I'll start with you, I think, Charlie, and then we'll move along.
That's not fair. I don't want to go first.
Yeah, go on, Charlie. Get this one.
Yeah, we were discussing. I was going to pass it on to you. Well, I think there are many fine attributes to women in the workplace. I mean, I'm a violinist. I'm a musician, so I work with orchestras and lots of women in that capacity. And I'd say they bring a different sensibility to music. That would be my personal experience of women in the workplace. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to sort of distinguish exactly what it is, but there's definitely a different sensitivity to the interpretation of music, of classical music, which is what I play, which is illuminating to somebody like me, because I wouldn't necessarily see it that way. So I'm inspired by working with women in music on a very practical level like that.
Thank you. Good to know. Mike?
Okay.
Oh, I think a workplace would be a very dark and miserable place without women, to be honest. But the particular skill I've always admired in business is I think women are much more sensitive to the way emotion and behaviour is linked. And anybody who's ever been involved in large-scale consumer marketing knows how valuable that is.
Yeah.
So that is the skill I most admire.
Brilliant. David?
I mean, I work in the only industry in the world that's probably dominated by women.
Exactly, yes.
They earn 4 times the amount I do, we do. My dad still finds us very funny at this point. But so I have to admire everything. My whole career has been things that I have looked and been inspired by the top sort of models, supermodels of the world. So
Who are female?
who are all female, absolutely. So what can I say? They've all inspired me at the end of the day.
Brilliant. Alistair?
I'm going to end the loving.
Of course he is. Surprise, surprise.
Because I think that women are far too accepting of their role in the workplace.
Right.
And I think that both when I worked in the media as a journalist and also when I was in politics and in government, I think if you park the existence of Margaret Thatcher, who is, I think, just sui generis, as we say, she's just a special case, really. I think that in the British system, while you've had really good women in politics, I think women as a whole have been too accepting of male domination.
Right, okay. That's actually a really interesting perspective. Why do you think this is? Why do you think?
I don't know really. I think
nurtured that way?
Possibly. I think if I think about, I mean, you know my daughter who's sort of 18-year-old radical feminist, and if I look at my mum and her mum and her, you can see the way the whole thing has developed. That I don't think Grace's generation will be quite as accepting.
No.
But I think that women.
She's got you as a dad, so that's
But I think women have just been maybe scared to challenge it, and also too ready to accept the male argument that if you skew the rules to suit women, it's somehow unfair. Whereas actually, what's unfair is the status quo, and it's only sometimes if you skew the system that you're going to change anything. And we've done that once or twice in the Labour Party, and we're doing it again. But you try and have that argument with the member of the current government, including the Clegg side of it. Okay. You won't win.
Okay, all right, Alistair.
Vote Labour.
We won't get too political. we won't get too political today, please. Moving swiftly on.
No, I could have brought my own political agenda, but instead I thought I'd talk about Nicki Minaj. So that's where I'm at. Within a bit like David, really, my industry is chock full of wonderful women, and my co-hosts on television have included, well, over the years, the one and only June Sarpong, ladies and gentlemen. And if I kind of make it more specific, my day job Monday to Friday on the Capital Breakfast Show there to do an Alistair here. Make sure you tune in. Lisa's perspective on the world as a woman. Her informed opinions on things, not only on music, but her take on situations and scenarios that we might be discussing on the show that morning as part of a texter. Of course, female callers, female texters. It's all important to me because I can't make the show that I make without that. You don't want to. I don't know if this is the platform for such a saying, but no one wants to broadcast in a sausage factory.
No.
And that'll sink into you all shortly. So it's very important for me to make the kind of show that I want to make on a morning by morning basis. That I have Lisa and I have the female members of the team there. So yes, it's very important in my workplace, Jude.
And actually, sort of television is probably one of the only industries where there is a better balance in terms of sort of producer level, for sure. There's a much
absolutely. I mean, some of the best producers and directors and stuff we worked with over the years are female, and some of my favourite people to make television with, including Fern Cotton and Alexa Chung and Holly Willoughby and all the great female hosts that I have the pleasure of working with. Exactly. Lucky me. So it makes it it makes it nice to go to work and read aloud for a living.
Yeah. Peter.
I'll tell a little anecdote. I was working here in London actually about 12 years ago, and I was working at McKinsey, and the partner with whom I was working on this particular project was a woman, and she was pregnant during the entire course of the study, and she was giving a very big presentation one day to a CEO, and she said, "Excuse me, I need to go throw up." and she went out and she got sick, and then she came back and continued and finished the presentation. And no man could do that.
Unless he'd had a really rough night the night before, yeah. So, Peter, let's talk a little bit about all of the work that you've done. I mean, Peter's background is he started a company in the US called Ethos Water, which if you go to Starbucks, I'm sure you've seen it, it's the water in Starbucks. And basically what that brand did was it provided safe drinking water for people in the developing world. And his new project is Fonderie 47. And what that company does, which is amazing, and I'm wearing a piece, is turns weapons from war-torn countries in the world into priceless jewellery. And so with what you're doing, you know, your sort of predominant customer, as it were, would be female, and particularly with the jewels.
Yeah.
So how do you sort of put that in mind when you are creating a product and when you are building a business that is actually sort of predominantly directed at women?
When we started thinking about the business, we tried to figure out what are the things that men and women most want, and then how do they buy them. If you look at jewelry, actually, most very expensive jewelry is bought by men for women. And there's some very interesting dynamics about how women may want a piece of jewelry, how they influence a man in a relationship to get it. But as a marketer, it's fascinating to think about the types of people you're marketing to. For example, David Yurman is a very big jewelry company in the United States, and they price their jewelry exactly at the price point where they know that women, their average price is the price at which women will buy things on their own. So that company cleverly has taken men out of the equation. And I think that that's one of the lessons that we've learned, is that if you can avoid having to market through a relationship to someone, unfortunately we don't make pieces that are that inexpensive. Our stuff tends to be 10 to 20 times more expensive than that. But that was one of the fascinating lessons. We're just about to come out with our first watch. It's a men's watch. It's made in Switzerland. So this is not a marketing pitch, but look for it.
Now, so Dave, let's talk a bit about how men and women differ in terms of leadership style, because your industry, there are sort of equal numbers of men and women in sort of leadership roles. What would you say the differences are?
Well, as you are fully aware, June,
yes,
we never have to put up with any kind of leadership stuff because we're the nice presenters and we're locked in a room with Haribo and water.
And strawberries.
And strawberries. But from talking to various researchers and runners and producers that I've worked with, both male and female, it seems, you know, that the ladies are the scary ones.
Really? Wow.
They're not happy with the way things are going, then they're going to have to change. So yeah, I kind of, you know, genuinely, I'm kind of, you know, shielded from that. You know that, June.
Yeah.
Why would you come to me with this? I mean, you're the worst for that, June. Everyone knows your reputation. Don't laugh nervously, June.
Please, don't tell anyone. Don't tell anyone. Alistair, what do you think the sexes can learn from each other in terms of work?
Well, I think it's the fact that if you're talking about power, what women can learn from men, I think, is how to hold on to it.
Yeah.
And that's why actually I don't think women have advanced nearly as much as they should have, given kind of what if you look at the pace of change in virtually every other part of our lives, I don't think this has changed quite as much maybe as people think. Don't confuse equal rights, which you can have on the statute book, with equal outcomes and equal worth. And whether you see that I mean, I don't agree, for example, that even your industry is kind of 50-50. I think it's very male dominated, but you have a few high profile women out there that give the sense of the balance being greater than it is. If you looked, for example, at the Leveson inquiry, where all the editors were called up there, I think it was one woman, and she's the editor of the Daily Star. So I think what men do very, very well is give this sense of that there's been all this progress and there's been all this change, but I'm not sure, honestly, that it's been quite as radical and as advanced as you might think.
Actually, I think you're right on that one.
So I think you should be fighting harder than you do.
Well, that's what we're trying to do
Yeah,
here, Alistair.
yeah. No, I know. You see, but I think also if also do pocket the progress. The progress is real. You know, women's rights and equality and the statute, but that's really, really important. But sometimes the laws are the change that should then lead to greater cultural change, and I don't think the cultural change has really followed the law.
Right, in the same speed.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, David, your industry is really interesting. As you said earlier, it is one of the only industries that's dominated by
Well, when the modelling is, Jim.
Yes.
If you actually look at fashion as a whole, then you know,
Yeah.
the CEOs and the owners of
Yeah.
the companies.
Yeah.
Again, you look
All
at
men.
Philip Green and
Yeah,
owners of
that's
M&S
true.
and everything, it's still men.
Yes,
So again, when I say industry, I really mean modelling.
modelling
And
industry.
that's dominated by women, yeah.
So with you, you've sort of risen to the top of this sort of female-dominated industry. So you kind of understand it from a sort of reverse
I do. I was thinking
perspective.
about this today, and it's actually what I was saying about the acceptance that women have had to accept the level that they are. And this is when I came into the industry, I couldn't understand that the men were accepting of where they were in the position of within the modelling industry, and we were sort of very second rate, you know,
Yeah.
and beyond that, and I couldn't understand. They were very happy to get to a level, and that was it. We were on the same campaigns and the same coverage, had the same agencies, but again, we were getting paid. It can be getting paid 10 times less than the girls, and we didn't have a voice. And I still, to this day, I was talking to Warren Menzies, he's presenter now, and he said to me, "Well, what are you going to do after modelling?" And I said, "Well, I haven't really been modelling now. I've advanced from modelling." And he said, "You sure you must want to go on to do something else?" I said, "I do it. I have a voice. I write for Vogue. I write for GQ. I have different things to do." And it's that mindset that really is, I think, was sort of limiting guys
Right.
within the modelling industry anyway.
You know, it's one of those things where, you know, it's such a shame, isn't it, women, that we can't all be models, because wouldn't it be so much easier? That's the one place where we earn more, okay? Just such is life. And so, Mike, you've had two amazing businesses that are direct to the consumer. So you really understand how important it is to market to women.
Yep.
How was that represented in terms of the structure of your companies and employment?
Well, that's really interesting. You know, I've run 4 leadership teams, and the first one had 2 women. That was first direct out of 8.
Wow.
Mercury had no women on a leadership team of 12 when I got there. Egg 3 out of 8, and then Garlic 3 out of 6. And you do need women on a leadership team, I think, particularly if you're marketing to consumers. Half of your market is women.
Yes.
You know, they got much deep. They obviously understand women better than we do, of course. But also, as I said before, you know, they've got a better intuition about the way emotions drive behaviours for men and women. So I always think the best marketing people I've ever worked with have been women. I've packed my marketing department with women. Whatever the senior executives look like, the marketing department, the customer insight, all of that stuff was very much run by women. So that's certainly something. So half your workforce are women, half your customer base are women. I agree with what Peter said earlier, you know. The current structure is self-perpetuating. For historical reasons, it's got men at the top and it perpetuates it. And I think it does need some action. Actually, I support this, even getting more women on boards. It won't happen. It really won't happen unless somebody does something about it.
Do you think legislation is needed?
Probably. Very unpopular view with any of my business colleagues, I have to say. But you can try exhortation. You see, filling a board is a really hard thing to do. You're trying to, particularly these days with global competition and everything else, you need a very interesting mix of skills on a board. And if you're then constraining people by saying, and that skill has to be supplied by a woman, every chairman is going to resist that. Every chairman is going to resist that and find a good reason why it is not possible. So, and yet I think the greater good for the company, not for the society, forget society, the greater good for the company would be more balanced, and I just think legislation would help business against their will.
Yeah, I think I completely agree. Now, Charlie, I'd like to know, how do women sort of influence the way you play?
Glad she asked you.
That's it. Yeah. don't know how to answer that question.
Charlie's getting rude in it.
Have you been influenced by women through your music?
Well, I mean, I suppose on many levels I am.
Yeah.
Most fundamentally, I suppose, I come from a women-dominated family. I've got 3 sisters and a powerful mum.
Yeah.
And one of my sisters is a musician, actually, and she has been very influential, actually, literally in the sort of practical aspect of playing since I was a child. She's an older sister. So, so I suppose I've definitely got a women's perspective on what I do in that sense. But otherwise, I mean, I don't know exactly what you mean in terms of...
No.
Yeah, I mean, I can interpret that in many ways, I suppose. But yeah, no, I've definitely had many women who've sort of mentored me and taught me. So directly, that's been a...
And in the sort of the classical world, what is the ratio there in terms of sort of...
Well, it's funny actually, because I think it's probably been it's a male-dominated world traditionally, but I'd say recently, certainly in the discipline of playing the violin, I'd say it's kind of young violinists anyways. It is more dominated by young girls than boys. You know, the likes of Nicola Benedetti and Vilde Frang, Chloe Hansen, and Sophie Mutter. You know, there's a glamour to women playing the violin, which is great, and they're all fantastic musicians. So.
And I suppose the thing with music is it's so much clear in terms of the result. You know, you either like the way a person plays or you don't. So therefore,
yeah, it's easy to. A lot of people generalise about sort of stylistic differences between men and women. You know, men are more powerful players and so on. But that's not really true, because one of my teachers is now 90 years old, and she was a huge star. She played during the war here in England, actually, with Sir Adrian Boult in the Albert Hall. That was her great debut, Ida Hendel. And she's about this tall, and she's got these tiny little hands, and she plays more powerfully than any man I know. So it's that's a real enigma.
Fantastic.
So you can't generalise.
No, you cannot. Now, Peter, I'll come back to you, because I've been living in the States, and I don't know how much time you spend in the US, but I think that in America, sort of just culturally, women are sort of much more forthright in terms of work and being more entrepreneurial, maybe more so than here. What do you think it is about sort of American psyche that sort of breeds that?
I can tell. My experience working here in the UK was, I worked in Europe for about a decade. I spent more of my career working in Europe than in the US, and I can say that I think political correctness is a sort of a shield of BS over the realities that all of us as human beings understand.
Yeah.
And one of the best parts of working in the UK was that men and women actually can enjoy being around each other in their own genders, whereas in the US, there's this sort of genderlessness that pervades because of the fact that we're such a litigious society. And so I think that I don't know what the statistics look like in the United States. I don't know if they're very different from the UK in terms of corporate leadership between men and women. Are they very different?
Yeah.
Very much so.
Very much so. I think you have 30% more than we do.
Really?
Yeah, it's a big difference.
Well, I don't know how to account for that because I didn't know that fact until just now. But I mean, I think that certainly in the United States, I think we've put a lot of pressure on ourselves, and the women's movement in the United States has been very firm and continues to be part of everyday life. I think it's part of our society now, and it's something that doesn't get spoken about. So when Gloria Steinem comes to give a speech now to a group of women, she's talking to a group of people who've heard this message for nearly 40 years. That doesn't mean that the issues, the gender issues between men and women are resolved. But you know, we have. It's interesting to think about the United States as such a powerful country, and yet we haven't had a woman president yet.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
So we may in the next election cycle. We'll see what Mrs. Clinton wants to.
Alistair, why do you think that is? Why do you think America hasn't had a female president?
Well, look, we've only had one woman prime minister. Germany has had Merkel. Very few countries. I mean, Australia at the moment. If you go to, I think it's If you go to the north, the Baltics and the Nordics have got a much better record in terms of leadership, but there haven't been that many American presidents, even since the time that women had the vote. So I don't think we should be too surprised by that. I think what is more surprising is that there have been so relatively few women in really senior government positions. So Hillary, Condi Rice, they're kind of exception as well. And I think that is back to the point I made right at the start, that men are expected to take the really powerful positions, not least by women. And I think until women sort of understand that that is deeply ingrained in all of us, so that we're talking about women as exceptions. I mean, you wouldn't have, but we've all sort of talked about this in the context of saying, you know, well, we value what women bring to the workplace is this and this. People would think we're eccentric if we said, well, you know, what a man brings to the workplace, because the assumption is that the man is kind of bringing it all.
Yeah, or
and I think that it underlines to me that you're actually we're a long way from even getting to the base where you need to be, where you might be in a position where it wouldn't be utterly exceptional for a woman to be the leader of a major democracy, which at the moment it still is. It's exceptional.
Yeah,
yeah.
It really is. What do you think we can learn from, you know, some of the African countries that have, you know, 50% representation in
They have 50-50 representation in some African countries, and also, actually Wales is a good example, where when the Welsh Assembly was set up, they said, we are going to make it 50-50. And so when you say what can we learn from African countries that have done it, it's back to the point you made about boards. It only happens when people say, we want it to happen, therefore we're going to make it happen, because it's not going to happen without us making it happen. It's not going to just evolve. Because in evolving, within any power structure, you have to challenge the forces of conservatism, small c, large c, doesn't matter. You have to challenge those to make the change happen. The reason why, as you rightly say, in any boardroom, the chairman's going to say, no, I don't want to do that, is because that challenges how they're doing things. But actually, if you look at it, they have to be shamed into realising that when they have their picture of the board taken every year, and there isn't a black person on it, and there isn't a woman on it, that they feel ridiculous. But at the moment, I promise you, they don't.
They don't?
No.
At all?
No.
So Dave, let's talk about, from a sort of a programme making perspective. So when you are making a show, are you thinking about your audience? And if so, how do you design that around the listener? And knowing that 50% of that listener is female. Well, in your case, probably like 80% of the listener is female.
I set out to make a show that people are going to find entertaining. There's certain kind of things, boxes that need to be ticked. You know, I'm aware that people don't listen all day, they don't listen all morning, and when you wake up you want to hear, you know, the songs that you like. That's why you've chosen the station in the first place. Also be able to be given a sense of the day, what's going on in the world, and, you know, and hopefully the presenter's unique perspective, you know, on that particular news story. And that's where, personally speaking, and as you say, with such a high female listenership and it being so important as far as advertisers go, you know, in commercial radio, that's why it's kind of important that, you know, that both sexes are represented in their opinion. And also as well, you know, what's quite nice about Lisa and I's relationship, at least as far as on air goes, is that we try to make it pliable and interchangeable. It's not quite as fruity as our off-air relationship. No, I'm kidding. But it's pliable, and we try to make it interchangeable. And, you know, there is, you know, Lisa could play a very typical female role with a new court, like core, you know, David Gandy's hot. I wouldn't mind a bit of that. He doesn't even blink. That's how often David Gandy's told he's hot. He doesn't even blink when he's saying it. Unbelievable. Makes me sick. Or you can kind of totally flip that, and it's, you know, and it is all important. As I say, you know, particularly as we're, you know, appealing to, you know, the kind of the people, the products that they want to sell in the adverts is what brings in the money, and that's what makes, you know, the boys and girls upstairs very happy. So to be able to kind of not just sit there and go, well, this is what happened today in the news, I think is kind of very important for us. And also, it's lovely to have someone to bounce off, and it's
Yeah.
important for me to be able to have fun in the morning,
Yes.
to kind of have that. And Lisa fills that role perfectly, and I don't know if I was doing this, and I have done radio shows with other guys
Yeah.
before, it's fun.
Different
and
dynamic.
we do things, but yeah, and for, you know, for all the obvious reasons, totally different dynamic. And I personally prefer working with kind of a female co-host, and both on television and radio, and always have done.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, hot David Gandy, moving on to you.
He's blinking now, Jim. When you say, you see, that's the
hot
difference.
David Gandy. Actually, let's talk a bit about, let's move slightly sort of away from this conversation a little bit and talk about the charity that you're doing, because I think, you know, what you're doing with Comic Relief is great, and it'd be great to sort of inform people here about it, and let's get you all supporting, please.
Yeah, Jean. I mean, what you know, I've obviously women have inspired me. Everything I've done, the way I've wrote. I mean, we're talking about sort of the head of companies. Just to go off briefly, but I mean, if we're talking about sort of the head of the two top modelling agencies in the country, which is Storm and Select.
Yeah.
One's run by Sarah Dukas, the other one run by Tanya Anson.
Yeah.
And I would challenge any man to challenge Tanya Anson anything, and believe
Ever.
me, you will lose. She's if Don Draper was a woman, it would be Tanya Anson,
Yeah.
and then she would outdrink, outdeal, out anything Don Draper even. But, so you know, it's they're very powerful ladies. But one thing I always looked at that I didn't see anyone doing was giving a lot back. I think the fashion industry is maybe seen as not very tangible to people. It's quite elitist, and there's a reason people do this.
Very insular.
For branding, but yes. And I've always wanted to sort of, like within my writing and for Vogue and a couple of other things, I always kind of want to sort of give people a bit more sort of tangibility to the fashion industry so they know what it's actually like. And then I started a charity called the Blue Steeler Pill. I couldn't get away from the Zoolander connotations anymore, so I decided to engulf them and have some comedy, bring the comedy factor into fashion.
Can you show us a blue steel?
No, I can't. I have the worst blue steel. I do a blue steel. Oh my God, that's
Come
awful.
on.
I shouldn't be doing the job
I think David's saying you can't afford him, June.
I can't, trust me.
But so I started a charity called the Blue Steel Appeal, which is raising money for comic relief throughout the fashion industry. And I just think we needed a platform for the fashion industry, and it's quite fun. I have quite a powerful committee of fashion people, but the people who have gone beyond where they needed to are all women.
Yeah.
Sophia, the editor of 10 magazine, Niafutu has just brought in so many bids, and what we've done is actually I've done an international auction on eBay, which are one-off prizes for the fashion industry. So we've got Victoria Beckham donating one, Louis Vuitton, Chanel, absolutely everyone, myself, obviously, and these are all experiences that people would never normally be able to have within the fashion industry. And normal auctions are, we go off and we have this big party that we all attend, and there's a lot of rich people that sit around the table and bid on something they don't need. And I just thought, why do we not let everyone have this? Every man and woman on the street have be able to go to a Victoria Beckham show in New York, or but it's not just for women. Dolce & Gabbana have donated their San Siro box, their VIP box for Milan, to go and watch the football. So it's just stuff like that, and that's where we are. And it went live last night, and it seems to be going okay.
Brilliant. Well done you. Congratulations. And Mike, I'd love to hear more about the mentoring that you're doing, because now that's a real passion for you.
It really is, yes. I've stopped creating businesses now.
Well, you've created enough successful ones.
Well, I'm just doing one more, but that's a quiet little one. No, I mentor emerging entrepreneurs, so the only criteria is they're turning over less than £10 million a year at the moment. Some of them are doing zero at the moment. But the criteria is they have what I believe is game-changing potential in the industry they operate in. They can change the way industry works, they can create wealth, they can create employment, they can generate growth. And I work with 24 in 2 groups of 12 and one-to-one. And I handpicked them. I had a lot of applications for this, been doing it a couple of years now, a year and a half. I handpicked them, not trying to balance anything. Gender, race, sector, anything, just picked the ones I thought were the best, 24.
Right.
And I ended up with 13 businesses being run by women and 11 by men.
Wow.
And what I'm also doing is that you kind of see stuff that's missing for these things, businesses to be successful. And one of the big things missing is the sort of funding that entrepreneurs really will find helpful. A lot of funding out there, entrepreneurs don't like it for all sorts of reasons.
Right.
So last night we launched a fund called the Phoebe Fund for entrepreneurs by entrepreneurs, so designed by entrepreneurs who've been successful, largely funded by them. Aimed at emerging entrepreneurs. So I'm hoping that'll be a bit of a game changer in and of itself as well.
Brilliant, fantastic. And Charlie, it'd be great to talk about what music you're working on at the moment.
What music I'm working on?
Yes.
Well, I'm working at the moment on the Prokofiev G minor violin concerto. I'm going to Holland next week on a tour to perform it. But another aspect actually that I've started enjoying, I became a professor at Leeds College of Music recently.
Wow.
And I've been going up there to coach young players, which is very inspiring for me because I learn a lot more about violin playing, having to actually explain it myself. And it's great to see so many young people who are enthusiastic about playing the violin at that level, you know, who've pursued it up to the age of 18 and then they've carried on and want to sort of continue playing. So that fills quite a lot of my time now as well.
How old were you when you started playing?
3.
Wow. Wow. And is that, did you know from a very early age that you wanted to become a classical violinist?
I never sort of made a decision that I want to be a professional violinist. I've just always played. And I've had opportunities to be able to play in wonderful places and play wonderful music.
Oh,
That's
that
it.
you do. You played for us this morning. Charlie performed for us a little bit earlier this morning, which was a lot of fun. Now, we are going to be doing a tweetathon at 3:30. How are we looking for time on that? 10 past. We've got a little bit of time. And are you aware of what we're doing, fellas? Should I fill you in? So, at 3... Did you bring your phones, by the way? Yes?
Yeah, they're off. We were told to turn them off, but we can turn them on.
Mine's over there, June.
Yours is over there, is it? Okay, well, we'll get yours in a minute. So at 3:30, we have women all over the country all tweeting about what it means to be a woman. Now, obviously, none of you are women here. Well, you guys are, but they're not. So what we thought we'd do in the session is actually have people send out to their networks a question, which is, how is life different because you're a woman? And so what I'd like to sort of ask you all is, what do you think, how is life different for women? I mean, what's your opinion on that? Peter, we'll start with you.
Well, the first company I started was because I met women and girls who couldn't get access to clean water easily. And so I know in their lives and the lives of most women in the developing world, of the 20% of the global population that doesn't have water access, almost all of the water that's provided for those societies is done, the work is done by women. They walk, they collect, they pick up, they carry huge amounts of water every day. And it's almost shaming as a man when you are in a place like this and you go on a walk for water with women, because they can carry so much more weight than you can so far. Wow. These little girls, maybe they're 8 years old, are carrying 20, 30 pounds for several hours. Something that I'm sure, well, at least one of us might be able to do that. Most of us probably couldn't.
Did you blink there, David? Just checking.
Was that aimed at me? Or was
It's definitely not aimed at us.
Dave?
I have absolutely no idea, June.
Well, you've got female friends, haven't you? You've got mum.
Yeah, hit me with the question again.
How do you think life is different? Well, okay.
Well, that's a different question altogether.
Yeah,
I mean, I have no idea. All I know is most recently, the most spectacular woman in my life, and she has been for many years, is my little sister, who made me an uncle 8 months ago. So that's quite a special thing to do, and it's an amazing thing that she's done for watching my parents become grandparents. I know that's something that I could also do with the help of a woman. But with the help of some toe rag called Scott, who's punching well above her weight, she's done something truly amazing. So I imagine that's quite a wonderful thing to know that you can bring to the world. And you know, all I need to do is, you know, all I need to contribute possibly is just a jar. So it's all down to you guys. So that must be pretty cool.
Well, am I right in saying you're single, Dave? Are you?
I am single, yes.
Well, so anyone that's kind of looking for the role.
I've come here to impregnate you all. June, this isn't blind date. Alistair. Please.
Can I further lower the tone? I think it's about expectations. I mean, I've just done a thing for Comic Relief in Ghana on the...
Where my parents are from.
Exactly, on mental health services there, which are, I mean, if we think they're bad here, honestly, it's just... But what was extraordinary, when you go to the polyclinics and you see these people being taken along to see one of the 12 psychiatrists in the country,
Oh my God.
as opposed to 40,000 faith healers,
Wow.
they're all being taken there by women, whether it's a mother or a sister. So I think the first thing I'd say is that there is an expectation on women to, even if they're not the carers, this goes right around the world, not just in Ghana, to do the caring.
Caregiving, yeah.
And I think the second thing, and this is something that Grace, it's been quite interesting actually, because Grace my daughter has become very sort of radical feminist, but thinks that sort of feminism as my generation sees it is not really what she means, and it's this thing about we're sort of still having an argument about the past as opposed to we should be in a different place.
Right.
And she said today, by the way, I have to tell you, she's got her blog farfromgrace.org, where she puts out these radical thoughts. But the point is, I think one of the points she keeps making is one of the points that she keeps making is the expectations upon women are different. She's got two brothers in this thing about how they're meant to look, how they're meant to behave.
Yeah.
Now, and I think a lot of this, let's be honest with us, I think a lot of this is not just about male domination, this is about the very female-dominated women's media as well.
Yeah.
So I think it's not, this is like women making women behave like this as well as men making women. So I would find that quite difficult. We all of us have to, look, we're all dressed in a certain way because we knew we were coming to this thing. We all respond to certain norms, but I suspect women are expected to conform to more norms being set by other people than men are. And I would get very, very pissed off with that.
Yeah. Well, you're right. Well, we do, don't we? Yes, we do. David?
Dreading this one. Where are we on this question? It's gone from... I mean, the thing is, again, it's like I'm in an industry where the differences about being a a woman. I've seen it. It's a complete
It's a
twist.
reverse for you,
It's absolute reverse. So the women in the modelling industry, the top ones are treated with such high acclaim. So they, I always looked at it. They had a lovely time, and they do, and they do exactly the same job. But it's different. But then you can talk about sort of expectations of women, how to be, and you could say the models that we look at are in the magazines.
Yeah.
They have a huge influence on the way women think they should maybe have to look.
Yeah.
Is that good or bad?
It is.
It is what it is.
Well, it's not what it is. It's when I came to the modelling industry, all the guys were skinny waisted guys. That's what was in. That was the trend. Now, I didn't follow that trend. I don't believe in follow trends. I think as soon as you follow a trend, then you're out of date. You have to set trends. Like we were talking about, someone sets a trend within bringing more women into some marketplace into companies. People will follow.
Yeah.
We live in a world that no one wants to be seen as racist or sexist or anything else, and so if one company did that, the rest would follow very, very quickly, I'm sure. And that's what hopefully I did. But I'm not saying it's a good thing. It's not saying it's a bad thing. People have to have their own minds at the end of the day and not be so influenced by women. But
brilliant. Well, this again, I'm thinking about you all as I'm asking these questions. It was recently announced, David, that you're single too. Am I right in saying?
Don't fall for it, David. Don't fall for it.
pass the cup over.
The whole
Again, anyone else? After the session, come say hello. Okay, Mike.
Single Mike?
My wife is in the audience.
Right.
Hello. Hi.
Lovely wife is here. Can you stand up and let's give her a round of applause because his success is due to her. So
No, she does frequently tell me that. I'm going to confine the world of business. Let me stay in the world of business. Much safer territory than anywhere else. I'd pick up 2 points, really. The first is the obvious one of childcare, which I think is a massive inhibitor for women wanting to claw their way to the top of corporations.
yeah.
Because if you do get to the top, you have no control whatsoever over your life. The corporation takes it.
Yeah.
And mixing that up with childcare is next to impossible, which is why I think a lot of smart, bright, capable women are going to create businesses on their own, becoming entrepreneurs. They can control it completely, and I've seen a lot of people mix childcare in with building successful businesses. Much easier done. First thing. Second thing, and hopefully not too controversial, is some women seem to have grown up with the desire to be liked. And it is very rare in men to have that desire respected, maybe.
We sort of nurture our girls to feel they need to be that way.
You know, in any leadership position, you're going to be taking a lot of difficult issues, some of which you're going to be criticised about all of the time. You're going to take difficult decisions that lose friends, and you're not going to be liked. And I've spoken to a number of women, actually, who find that really hard, and have to break through that fear of being disliked and losing friends to actually operate at that level. Men have got a whole bunch of different issues. No easier to deal with, but different. So I think this issue of being liked is a big one. To me, anyway. I don't know
it is, isn't it? It is. It's a really
I think that's a whole with men and women. I think it's everyone wants to be liked. No one wants to say that anything that is different from anyone else.
Maybe this is what distinguishes people who run companies. They don't really care if anything.
The rest of us, oh, please like me. Charlie?
Well, my example would probably be my older sister, who's a composer, and she studied with a number of powerful male composers, and I'd say composition is probably a male-dominated world, and she got to a point where she almost felt she was having to take on male characteristics to succeed in that world, which ended up in her taking a completely different sort of transition and just saying, you know what, I'm not going to carry on in this world, and I'm going to sort of be more of a sort of folk singer-songwriter and just embrace my femininity instead of conforming to this kind of dogmatic way of doing things.
That's interesting that that's happening in the classical world when that's so common in the corporate world. Well, I mean, I wouldn't say it's the whole of the classical world, but certainly if in this very niche world of contemporary classical composition, that is the case. Wow. Well, thank you. Well, I'm sure we have lots of questions from our audience, so I won't hog you guys for much longer. Any questions? Who wants to go first? You're in the front row. Don't be shy, ladies.
Hi, I'm Shirley Palmer. First question is a little personal. So, who was the most inspirational woman in your life and why? And the second one, as men, what do you feel you're doing to support the women in your life be more effective leaders?
Should we start with you, Peter, and go down? That's a great question.
I can't answer the first one exactly because it would be an even split between my mother and my wife.
No.
My wife is she's an actress. She made out with Don Draper on Mad Men. It's a lot of fun to get those emails. And I would say the thing about her that's so special is that she's managed to build an acting career from growing up in the Bronx as a poor kid and sort of burst onto the stage when she was 13 and has built this career in an amazing way. And now we have a daughter, and our daughter's 4 months old, and she's back acting again. She just came back from California filming a show. So, I think in terms of working together, we support each other in our careers. She's helped me to meet people and introduced me to people, and I've talked to her a lot about thinking about the relationships that she has in the entertainment industry through the lens of business, which may not be a good idea, but we support each other in terms of the work that we do.
Wonderful. Dave?
Well, my mother, very quickly, my mother passed away this last year of cancer. My dad died of cancer when I was a little kid.
Wow.
And my mom was a great parent as a single parent. And she let us be who we were and gave us really good boundaries, but didn't stop us from chipping our teeth.
She sounds like an amazing woman.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dave?
Hello.
Most inspirational woman in your life?
I would probably have to go with my little sister again, Katie. We had have some illness in our family. We've had it for quite a while, and she's been truly fantastic throughout that. You know, a carer and beyond. And while with my career and to try and achieve the things that I'm doing, it's involved me kind of going away a lot and not necessarily being around. It's involved a lot of that stuff, and she's been there. Not only, you know, because she wanted to be there, but also there were times when, you know, she's kind of done things on her own. And to go through all of that and to, you know, have her own career as well, and then to be, you know, respected at what she does and take time away from that to meet the right guy and have my niece and stuff, I think is quite remarkable for the... what am I allowed to say? She's 26. She's 18 months younger than me, which is quite handy, even though I'm 34. So I don't know how that one works out, right? But yeah, I'd have to go with my sister for me. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Thank you for your question.
Your 26-year-old sister.
My 26-year-old sister. Hi, I'm David. I'm 28.
Alistair.
I think I have to go in politics, and I think when we were doing the Northern Ireland peace process, there was a group which got very, very little attention, but they were actually called the Women's Coalition. And they used to, there's a woman called Monica William, I think she was called, and they used to just be around the whole time. So when you had those day after day after day of these talks going on, you know, Jerry Adams and Martin McGuinness and David Trimble and Ian Paisley, and it was all, again, very male dominated and very, very tough at times. And they were there as a kind of cajoling force, and they were a force. And I can remember actually at various points Tony Blair saying, get the women in. And it just meant I need to talk to somebody who's kind of not crazy. I need to just get a proper take on this. So I think if I can think of a specific thing in the political process where a group of people that have set themselves up as women and had an impact which is pretty unsung, I would pick them.
David? Most inspirational?
Two people. I'm a complete mummy's boy, so mum number one. She's probably the most unselfish person I know. She was also a time when she lost my grandparents, but her mum and dad and her brother in a matter of 18 months.
Wow.
And I think a lot of guys would have gone, you know, women can seem to just not bounce back from it, but accept it and just carry on. Where I think a lot of men would have gone the complete rails, absolutely resilient. But she was my support, my best friend, my therapist, my baker, everything. You know, she's everything. She's an amazing lady. But she doesn't know anything about the fashion industry. Tandy Anson, and I love that. Tandy Anson is probably my mum within the fashion industry. I've known her for 12 years, and even though she's one of the most powerful women I know, she also has a very motherly instinct, and she looks after people a way a man could never look after a person if he was in charge of a company. So they're my two inspirations.
Brilliant. Mike?
I'm going to pick two as well. One is my grandmother. And one of my earliest memories is her working on a lorry engine on the kitchen table. And she was helping my grandfather, who was building he built a business in the 30s and prospered through the 60s, 70s, 80s. This is in the 50s, probably, my memory. And it involved running and repairing a fleet of lorries, and they often did them on the kitchen table.
With your
there she was a great
Amazing.
mechanic. And she was a fabulous power behind him, and I thought she was tremendous. And the second one, and I know it's terribly politically correct, so she's in the audience, but I do have to choose my wife. And on one particular aspect, I used to go along with her to a place she worked at, and at this time she was specialising in educationally, special needs education for adults, and boy, that's a tough
Yeah,
game.
very.
And how she had the patience to deal with these 40-year-olds and baby steps at a time, you know, teaching them to count to 4 was a massive achievement. I couldn't do that, you know, I couldn't do it. So I greatly admired that and took inspiration from that, although she's in the audience.
So you married very well.
I did.
Congratulations. Charlie.
I agree with what David said, that quiet strength of women, which I have with my mum and my grandmother, when sort of, you know, torrential, you know, terrible things happen. You know, we've had some passings as well in our family. And it's, you know, I've got strong men in my family, but they sort of go to pieces. Whereas the women keep this sort of solid column of strength, which supports everybody. So I would definitely choose them. And also that little violinist I was talking about earlier, Ida Hendel, because she is amazing. She's so inspired and she's so passionate about what she does, despite the fact she's never had the recognition I think she deserves as a violinist. And she's about 90 now, and yet she still has that zest for music making, the violin, and life. So that's inspiring.
Brilliant. Wow. I think we can have 2 more questions. One. You said 1. Okay. Do you want to go?
Just a quick one. I just want to appreciate the fact that you have all noted how Africa is leading in gender parity. But my quick question, since Tam is not with us, is do you really, as men, feel we need to have a day like International Women's Day? Or do we need to have an International Men's Day?
Oh. Do we need an International Men's Day?
I think you've got 364 of those.
Yeah. You've got 364 of those. Okay, so it is tweet time, everybody. So those of you that do tweet, did anyone bring their phones?
What about her question?
Pardon?
I think she wanted us all to answer.
Do you want the question? She wanted everyone to answer. Well, I thought you answered it first. You normally do.
Who votes for yes? Who votes for no?
Answer for everyone.
Yes.
Men's Day, no.
Men's Day, no.
Definitely don't need a men's day, no.
Only if there'll be cake.
Only if there'll be cake, yeah. No Men's Day. For anybody that does have their phone on stage, I have mine. And for those of you that do, oops. We have, thank you, Peter. We have the hashtag. It's the hashtag is WIE Care, WIE Care. Oh my goodness, no, don't say command. And all you have to ask people that follow you on Twitter is, how is life different because you are a woman? So if you send that message out,
How what?
how is life different because you are a woman?
Okay.
Obviously that, you're not a woman, Alistair, just in case
No.
you didn't know. So we can send all that out. We're going to have people...
Hashtag, please.
Yeah, we share. WIE share. Oh, how fun to see you all tweeting. It's amazing that you all tweet the way you do.
Oops.
I'm
Screw that up.
learning. This is all new to me.
What's the question again? How is life different because you're a woman?
Well, you answered it earlier, Alistair.
Probably got approached by the thought police. Oops.
Yeah.
There we go. Gone.
Great. Ours is gone. Wonderful. Well, I think on that note, we have come to an end of this fantastic session with our amazing men. First of all, fellas, thank you so much for joining us today. Like I said, you're all so brave, and it was so interesting, and I'm so impressed by the way they all dressed up for us too, isn't it, ladies? So can you please put your hands together for Charlie CM, Mike Harris, Dave Gandy, Alistair Campbell, Dave Berry, and Peter Poole. Thank you.
Well, can I just extend my thanks to June and these 6 wonderful gentlemen on our panel today. I think it's great that we've got 6 men at the very top of their individual careers, very diverse careers, all saying to us ladies, don't follow the trends, don't be so accepting, go for it, break the boundaries. And I think it's also very brave that you 6 are representing 50% of the population. I'm sure this 50% of the population are very grateful that you took up the challenge today. And I think if the rest of the 50% that you represented were even close to you, the world would be a very different and a much improved place. So gentlemen, thank you very much again. Our men's panel, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies, we're just going to take a short break between panels while we swap our microphones over. So you've got about 5 minutes, ladies.